Shalom, shalom. Is martial law coming to the United States of America on April 20th, 2025? Before we get into that subject, there is an important announcement. Nothing in this video should be considered legal, political, medical, or financial advice. The views are the expressed views of this channel. The internet is full of fake news, and you should always do your own research and consult with professionals. Well, brothers and sisters, I wanted to bring this to you. I'm getting messages from several people, many in fear, many who adhere to the left politically. While I am not being political, I definitely want to answer this question for you. I know that there was an article that came out in the Patriot that literally had in it about the possibility of martial law on April 20th. I mean, we're only a few short days away from that. So let me explain, and please stay with me so that I can give you information and details about this. Now, I want to tell everyone, for more information, how you can reach me with prayer requests or with questions or to communicate, go to timhendersonministries.org or timhenderson.tv, and I am happy to answer your questions there. Additionally, there's information on the Israel trip, the tour in September. You're not going to want to miss that, and how you can support what we're doing in helping men, women, and children coming out of human trafficking. So there you have it. Also, we know that YouTube and other venues like to delete subscribers or unsubscribe, I should say. I hear that all the time. If you are a subscriber or you're new to the channel and you want to subscribe, click the bell, click all. I would say every once in a while, check and see. If you're not getting notifications, there's probably a reason for it, and we're not doing that to you. Also, people are asking me why we're monetized. We are not monetized on this channel. There are times, like when I'm preaching at my church, that you'll hear a song that someone else has the rights to. We're allowed to broadcast that. However, they have the right. I'm not monetized, but if that person who has the rights, for instance, to that song is monetized, YouTube may monetize the video, and therefore you're going to see ads. But typically you're not going to. I am not monetized, so I want to clarify that for everyone. And let's get into this topic. In the New York Post, in the Medium, I'm actually going to get back to what was in the New York Post, probably later tonight or tomorrow. In the Medium, talking about martial law, it says on April 20th, 2025, the United States may cross the point of no return. Now, the person writing this article, I hope I'm saying it right, Aleph S. Themes, you can look it up on the Medium. That date, this is what he says, and he is clearly from the far left. That date is when President Trump's advisory committee is to release their findings on whether he should invoke the Insurrection Act, a move that would allow him to deploy the military domestically and allow Trump to impose martial law. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, it's fake news, and I'm going to explain why. You know, many times there's some truth in what they're saying, but it's twisted and it's fake. That is not pertaining to martial law. He's completely wrong. So what we know is that on January 20th, President Trump declared a national emergency due to our southern border crisis, which many of us agree it is a crisis, right? I've heard figures from 21 to 30 million illegals. We know what's going on with that. I'm believing that all of you know what I'm referring to about our unsecure borders. So here's what is being twisted. Within 90 days of the date of that executive order or that proclamation, the secretary, whenever that happens with a president, right? Something like that. He makes an executive order, a proclamation. He calls for a national emergency. Within 90 days, the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Homeland Security shall submit a joint report to the president about the conditions of the issue that he called the national emergency. In this case, the southern border of the United States, and any recommendations regarding additional actions that may be necessary to obtain complete operational control of the southern border, including whether to invoke the Insurrection Act of 1807. So within that date, within January 20th, they have 90 days. And this is why some of these reporters, some of these folks are coming out and saying on April 20th, we're going to have martial law. I'm telling you right now, that's fake. Okay? That is not the case. Just bear with me. Based on the recommendation, the report of the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Homeland Security, the president may declare, it may include additional acts, the Insurrection Act of 1807. So what's important to understand is, how is the Insurrection Act of 1807 different from martial law? And the Patriot does a really good job of spelling that out in response to the fake news that's going on. The Insurrection Act of 1807 is the United States federal law that empowers the President of the United States to nationally deploy the United States military and to federalize the National Guard units of the individual states in specific circumstances, such as the suppression of civil disorder, of insurrection, and of armed rebellion against the federal government of the United States. The Insurrection Act provides a statutory exception to the Posse Comitatus Act of 1878 that legally limits the president's deploying the United States military to enforce either civil law or criminal law within the United States. So the Insurrection Act gives him, right, in certain areas, certain circumstances, like with the southern border crisis, to take further steps so that he could deploy military, could deploy the National Guard in that state. In other words, he can send it to a certain area, or a certain circumstance, like the Summer of Love, where we saw cities being burned and buildings destroyed and chaos. I want to continue on the difference between the Insurrection Act and martial law. Just like with the Insurrection Act, martial law also involves the imposition of military control. The key difference is the military involvement through martial law is much broader. First of all, martial law applies broadly to the whole nation. Are you getting that? Not to an area, but to the whole nation or a large region, whereas the Insurrection Act is typically invoked for localized unrest or rebellion. I'm going to give you an example. My wife and I lived through it because we lived in Newport Beach, California at the time, such as the 1992 Los Angeles riots. Anybody remember that? A situation like that the president could invoke the Insurrection Act. Under martial law, there is a broad suspension of civil rights and liberties, such as freedom of assembly, speech, and the right to a fair trial. Military commanders replace civilian authorities, and courts might be replaced by military tribunals. That's with martial law. Now, we see martial law in other nations, and I pray we never come to that. I do believe when the rapture happens, I got to be careful what I say. I don't want to get too, you guys know who follow. When the rapture happens, I can see that happen with the chaos that ensues. But that's the difference between, so with the Insurrection Act, we don't lose. We don't lose that freedom of speech. We don't lose our freedom of assembly. We don't lose our right to a fair trial. But with martial law, military commanders take over that. And in fact, military tribunals can take over the legal system. You need to hear me. None of that is happening with this executive order. None of that is happening. Fake news is causing major panic on the left. I mean, even Snopes came out in a roundabout way, said, this isn't true. Brothers and sisters, this is not happening right now. Will we see the Insurrection Act in certain cases? We very well may. Will we see martial law enacted? I pray we don't. But I want you to know these rumors are fake. You need to be cautious of who you're listening to, what sources you're listening to. This is propaganda. This is a complete twisting. I just outlined for you the difference between the Insurrection Act and martial law, and what came about because of this executive order regarding the national emergency based on our border crossing, our southern border. It's localized to the southern border. And will the recommendation come out by the 20th from the Secretary of Defense and the Secretary of Homeland Security to invoke the Insurrection Act? I don't know. But even if it does, it is not martial law. You do not need to fear that. So I hope that brings peace. I want to keep this video to the topic and keep it brief enough. Again, I'm going to ask you all, please make sure you're subscribed. Smash that like button and click and share our videos. I'm not even going to end with my normal ending. I just want to tell you this. I appreciate and love this channel family. You guys are amazing. We are in this together. Let's press on and have an awesome rest of your day.